Hello, and welcome to the Masterpiece Arms Practical Pistol Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Tomasie. We're starting a new series, and this series entitled What Makes This Run Great? Where we're going to take a great or a winning run, a stage run, and break it down and analyze it. And I'll have the shooter with me who shot it, and we'll go through step by step, and I think there'll be a lot of takeaways. My guest this time is Team MPA's Greg Clement. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Really well, thank you. I appreciate you joining us, and I really appreciate you shooting such a great stage.
Thanks.
It's a winning stage, and you just burned it down.
Yeah, it was a good hoser for sure.
Let's go ahead and watch it. We're going to watch it in third person, which, in my opinion, is the most valuable way to analyze stages. But we also have a first person view as well. Go ahead and bring it up.
Stand by.
Woo. Okay, Greg, that was that was awesome. That I just want to point this out. The hit factor here, the hit factor is a 12.8. What that means is Greg is scoring 12.8 points per second. Okay, each alpha, that's the center hit, is worth 5. That gives you an idea of how fast and how efficient he is here. Just outstanding. I want to slow it down a little bit, Greg. Wow. Awesome. First, I want to talk about your start here. Okay, this is what I call a rolling start. And what I mean by that is you're drawing the gun and you're engaging that first target on the move, essentially.
Yeah.
And what I have found, number one, obviously you do have to step into the shooting area there. The right foot is on a stick there outside, but you're developing momentum towards the next position. This doing a rolling start versus a static start is worth at least 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, and I like to, just because of race holsters, I like to get a good purchase on the gun before I really shove off with my feet, because I don't want to kick the gun out of the holster. But
Nice.
like
I like that.
right now where you stopped it, my hand's already on the gun, and then here in the next frame or two, my foot's gonna start lifting. But it might not be like I might be able to earn another tenth or two if I just went ahead and shoved off, but I just don't want to dump a gun on the range and get the old Dairy Queen, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No. You bring up a great point, and the hand should go at that start signal, the B and beep, your hand should go towards the gun and get, like you said, a great purchase. So let's watch how you shoot this target exiting. That's at least, when I say 0.3, I'm saying that's usually a minimum. You could even reduce it depending on how aggressive you are in your launch, it could be a half a second.
Yeah, so this one, that wall prevented you from being too crazy aggressive, because it would close off the target. So like the camera is further to the back and to the right than where I am, so it doesn't show how fast that target disappears. But I mean, you basically got to be just about in that corner to actually see full A zone, which limits how much you can roll.
Yes.
But then it's a pretty big transition to the next target, so you'll see my feet speed up a lot on the transition when I'm not shooting anyway, because it doesn't impact accuracy.
Great point. And you're going to enter here on the paper, correct?
Yep.
What is your thought process on that? On the direction you're going to shoot that array, this next array that you're going to acquire?
So you definitely could have worked to limit transition by keeping the gun to the right and entering on the last paper I shoot through that next opening in the wall. But I felt I could shoot sooner and shoot more on the move by just transitioning straight to that paper in front of me.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
I shot it before the steel, just so that I could keep the gun all in one way when I was walking into the next spot. But
Great. So this paper is going to be your entry target. And you're already, as we can see here, I'll hit play, but as you can see already here, you're already visually acquiring that target. You've kept your gun up, and you're aggressively pushing towards that target. Let's watch that. Excellent. Great. And tell me about the, there's two shots on the steel. I assume that you called the first shot as there was something there that told you you weren't happy with it.
Yeah, so it's been a little while since I've shot this stage, but if I remember correctly, I felt I split the shot a little early coming in. Like I saw the dot kind of like half on, half off the steel on the left side, and I wasn't super confident it was going to hit the steel, so I went ahead and put the dot in the center of the steel and split the second one before I left.
Excellent. Like I like to consider that like shot calling at the speed of light. And what I mean by that is you process that so quickly that I mean that split is maybe like 2/10, you sent it immediately. And I will say sometimes people will get down on themselves like, well, I spent I spent extra time on that target and I hit it twice. There was no need to. But I will tell you, if there's something, and it might have been subconscious, it may have been conscious, that you were not happy with on the first shot, I'm totally fine with taking that pickup. And you did it so quickly.
I would prefer to not need it because it is, I mean, there is some time lost there on the split, but it sure beats a whole transition back to it again after the paper if it's not falling. be another, that'd be another like point
Exactly.
5, 0.4.5.
Yeah. So we eliminated that. We added a little bit, but you could have been, especially with the dot half off of that popper on the first shot, it could have been a miss.
It could have rang and not
So,
fallen too if I like just zinged the edge of it.
True. Very good point. Very good point. Let's watch these first two positions again in slow motion. Nice. Can you tell me about, I noticed some really good technique on in fact, I'm going to bring it up here, the transition. It's a very, very wide transition. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so that was something that Aaron Edens and yourself introduced me to, is transitions outside 90. You actually end up saving a bit of time by compressing the gun into your body a bit and extending it towards the other target. It shortens the path down. The other thing I found, so when I was playing with it, I went out and I set up a really wide array and I shot, like, I think I did 20 transitions how I normally do it, 20 transitions with that rainbow thing you see a lot of people do, and then 20 transitions with this like compress and push thing. I don't know what to call it.
That's it.
And
It's a compressed transition.
this compressed transition ended up saving me about 0.06 seconds on average and increased my alpha percentage. Because if I just kept my arms straight out, you're coming over with so much force, you tend to end up hitting Charlies on the far side of the alpha. Because you have a hard time stopping. Oh, my camera. Have a hard time stopping the gun here, and you end up kind of hitting that number, and then you pick up Charlies on the far side. With the rainbow, I tended to drop Charlies low because I didn't get it stopped in time. And then this is just like, basically, it's another presentation like you do on a draw. Like you snap your eyes, you try to get your eyes way ahead, which where you stopped it, you can see my eyes are already way beyond my gun. And then I'm just pushing the gun straight to the center of the alpha on the next one. And then the hardest thing is being patient enough to make sure the dot's actually there.
Yeah, right on.
It's really easy to be impatient because you feel like you take so much time kicking the gun all the way over there. But it takes everyone a lot of time. So you're better off making sure you're actually hitting the target on that first one, or you haven't gained yourself anything on the aggressive transition. But
yeah, very well said, Greg. And I found the same. It was about, averaging out about 600s faster. And then the additional benefit to that was a higher A percentage, better hits.
yeah.
And what I really like what I'm seeing here is you finished the last target in this position, and your eye path is already on the next entry target, or it's going there. It's ahead of the gun. You're going to compress the gun in, which also makes you slightly stronger and more stable, bringing your weight towards your torso during the pivot. You acquire that next target very quickly. Another thing I like about it is, and you shoot this next array left to right, and you're engaging that entry target as soon as you finish presenting. It's like you've acquired it and you go. Let's watch this transition again in slow motion now that we've discussed it. Beautiful. Eyes ahead of the gun compresses. Another thing I notice here, you're shooting on the move, you've got good knee bend. You're lowering your center of gravity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps you soak up all the impact from your feet. And then something I've been playing around with more is taking bigger and bigger steps. I feel like you end up getting a bit more dot bounce, like when your feet land, but you have more time in between. So you've got more time of steady in between the dot bounce, and I can cover more ground faster. So depending on size of target, distance to target, and how much ground I need to cover, if I take really big steps really low, I might have a bit more dot bounce, but I've got more time to rip to, and I'm covering more ground. Still playing with it, but liking what I'm getting so far.
I like it. That's the kind of experimentation that I think really pays off. I've always done, or especially initially, was the shorter steps, because the amount of sight lift, if you look at the arc, is smaller. You have less overall movement. But to your point, you're gaining less ground. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a compromise there, and it would depend on the target difficulty as well and how aggressive. If these targets were 18 yards, 20 yards, we may favor less dot movement.
Right, yeah.
Right? So that's good.
Yeah, these are all like, they're probably an average of 7 to 10 yards though, and they're mainly opens. So we were willing to cover ground pretty aggressive.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
Let's
you'll
watch
see
this.
My step different changes too, because like before I turn the corner, there's risk of me overrunning targets, and then after I turn the corner, I have a lot of ground to cover, and so the steps get huge again, and then they compress again there towards the end because I can't overrun things in windows. Specifically, this target was easy to overrun.
Absolutely. So you shortened your steps to accommodate the stage and the target presentation. Another thing that I really like here is you're keeping the gun up when it needs to be up. You're not compressing it when you have a shorter transition, and you're looking through the walls. You're looking through the snow fence to acquire the next target. So you're ready when the opening appears. You're ready to start shooting.
Yeah.
This is in some regards, you're ahead of the game. It's so easy. You see a lot of shooters, they get behind in this, and that they bring the gun down, they find the port, and then they present. It's just slow.
Yeah, you're doing one thing at a time instead of two things at a time. Because if I'm putting my gun up when I can't shoot anyway, I'm taking care of getting there and getting the gun up at the same time. And then as soon as the target's there, I can pull the trigger because I'm already up and aiming at it.
So let's look at this latter half again. You pause there, you turn the corner, slightly shorter steps, gun is up.
And then a big step to get to the last guy.
Big step to get to the last target. Yeah.
Another thing to bring up specifically on this corner and the next corner is just like feet and hip position. So something we see a lot of shooters do that limits them from blending positions well is they may fully face one array and they're not set up well to move to the next array. So for example, right before that wide transition, there were shooters that were squaring themselves up further to the right, where the targets to the left were then more behind them, and they had to uncork a lot to get there. Meanwhile, my feet are set up where the target I entered on is more square I'm square to the target I entered on, which puts the targets on the left within my transition. If I had squared up to the center of this array, the next targets would have been like behind me, and it would have taken more time to get to them.
That's awesome detail there. And this is something I recommend people practice at the range because you're multitasking. You're not only working on your position entries, but you're thinking, how do I set up for that entry affect how I'm going to leave? And you need to have your position and your stats set up that it accommodates this entire from the left limit to the right limit of this array, but also thinking in the future, how do I make that next wide transition to the next position?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great consideration. Let's watch that again now that we've talked about it. Yep. This last target, Greg, talk to me about the idea of stepping out. It's totally legal. You're not firing around out of bounds, so to speak. There's no foot faults. But what's the thought process of attacking it that way?
I usually plan on not stepping out. I just came in really hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Usually stepping out has some risk because you can't send a makeup, or if you do, you're going to get a foot fault. So I usually try to avoid it, just try to stop in bounds and stay in bounds. Of course, that target was like 5 yards and open. So just coming in really hot, not burning off the speed, might have gained me a little bit on the time. And if I need to make up on that target, I'm doing something really wrong.
Yes.
But I wasn't necessarily planning to fall out. I just hopped over to it really aggressive. And was pretty excited, too, at that point. I was like, yeah, that went well. Burning off some excess energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing to think about here is this isn't an array that you need to set up hard for. It's a single target. You're not doing any target transitions. It's going to take very little. It's going to tax your stance and your legs very little. And also the way you approach this, you had no deceleration to perform.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, you get to that. The shot between the last position and this position is going to be quicker because you're not braking at all. And because of the target difficulty is such, it's easy enough that you easily take 2 A's stepping out. I think it has the potential to be faster.
Gotcha.
And had this been, you have 3 targets and you've got one that's 90 degrees over here, that's a completely different scenario. You're going to have to decel. You're going to have to, like you mentioned, set up such that you can accommodate the entire array.
So you actually would have planned to fall out there then, just so you don't have to decelerate.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I absolutely do. If it's that, I'm certain of it. I can see that target through the wall, so I'm prepped for it. My eyes are on it. I may eliminate the decel, the braking zone.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And it tightens up the split between the last target and the last position, and this entry is going to be shorter. You've taken some time off. So, yeah. Excellent run, Greg. We're going to have some more episodes. I want to have you on since you're crushing so many stages. We'll have lots to talk about.
Sweet. Sounds fun.
All right.
I'll try to provide you some more content. So.
Yeah, please. Great. That should be your goal.
Yeah.
Every time you attack a stage.
Right. Got to make sure this one's a good one we can talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. And where can our viewers find you?
Yeah. So I'm under the name Greg Competes, and I've got a page on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube now.
Excellent. Greg, thanks again for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Guys, thanks for tuning in. This has been What Makes This Run So Great. We'll have another one coming soon. For more information, go to masterpiecearms.com.